what we're focused on right now is definitely, where we think this could be a sustainable long-term business, which is around this concept of turning influencers and or celebrities into AIs where their fan base can all interact with them, through natural voice.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by the Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub helps all founders build a better startup at a lower cost from day one. Startups get up to $150,000 in Azure credits, access to free OpenAI credits, free dev tools like GitHub, technical advisory, access to mentors and experts, and so much more. There is no funding requirement, and it only takes minutes to join. Sign up today at aka.ms/thisweekinstartups. Crowdbotics. Great ideas can change the world, and Crowdbotics is the fastest way to turn those ideas into code. Get a free scoping session for your next big app idea at crowdbotics.com/twist. And OpenPhone brings your team's business calls, texts, and contacts into one delightful app that works anywhere. Get 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/twist.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the program. We've been obsessing over AI, and CarynAI is a company that keeps coming up. Every time we tweet something or we have a conversation, people say, make sure you check out CarynAI. They've been at it for a little while, and in fact, we used CarynAI with producer Rachel on episode 1743. And this was the Snapchat influencer who created an AI version of herself, if you remember. Basically, she created a virtual girlfriend, and that went viral on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. So we decided to have the startup founder, John Meyer. No, not the one with the guitar playing skills, although he might play guitar. But welcome to This Week in Startups, CEO of Forever Voices, John Meyer.
Thank you, Jason. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. And so, nice view you got there. You're in Texas, I take it, by all that
Austin,
flat land
Texas.
Around? All right.
A lot of flat land and trees, yeah.
Is that where you started the company? Is that where you're from, or is that where you chose?
I'm from the New York area. I grew up in a little town on Long Island and then lived San Francisco, Port Washington.
Okay, of course. Yeah, I grew up in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. So,
wow.
People don't know Long Island and Brooklyn and Queens are basically part of the same island of Long Island. We just call them Brooklyn and Queens. And then you came to San Francisco, I take it, for a bit?
Came to San Francisco for a bit and then moved here about 4 years ago in Austin, yeah.
All right, so your program is Forever Voices, and you power CarynAI. I know you're also a Thiel Fellow, which means you had the ability to go to some great college, and Peter Thiel gave you $100,000 to quit college. Is that still the basis of the Thiel Fellowship?
It is still the basis. However, in my case, I went through this really just interesting and life-changing week-long period when I was 19 or so, where I basically decided in a single week, to drop out of school, turn down a full-time job at Apple in California, and start, a road of VC-backed tech startups as someone who really just is, I think, incapable of working for someone else and just has too many, ideas worth building. And I consider it, a dream privilege to be, in the startup world and building whatever I want.
How did you get into the Thiel Fellowship? How did you find out about it? I'm curious because it's kind of interesting, like some highly young, talented mutant with some crazy technical abilities. Professor X, Peter Thiel in this, puts on Cerebro and he finds all these like really interesting people. And I guess his thesis, as he explained it, was, hey, you can skip college and just get right to work. So how did you first find out about the Thiel Fellowship and then apply to it? I'm curious.
Well, all throughout my teenage years, I was building software and was really early in the mobile app space. And so when that got moving, I wound up building like 40 or so apps throughout high school in like the first few years of the App Store. I started going to these tech events in Manhattan. And apparently, I guess over 10 years ago, there used to be a physical Bitcoin exchange on Wall Street in downtown Manhattan. And they were having a New Year's Eve party when I believe this was like 2013 or 2014. And the whole idea was, let's bring all these people together and ring the new year in with Bitcoin and a physical exchange. And it was at this event that I met just some random dude who told me all about the Thiel Fellowship. And I applied at the party from my iPhone.
Wow. So in high school, you figured out how to make apps and you started making one every couple of weeks, if my math is correct, and you built 40 in 2 years. That's about one every 2 or 3 weeks. And so you were a developer in college, and then you found out, hey, there's a there. There are sometimes events going on with folks, and you joined the tech scene. I too, in the 80s and 90s, there was 2600 magazine used to get together at the Citicorp building by the Bank of Phones and just hang out in the public atrium, and anybody could go. And then there were all these dial-up bulletin board services, hangouts, where people would go and talk about running bulletin board systems before the internet. It was pretty crazy. So you get in to that, and then you start doing some other companies.
Well, they put you through this whole process, back in the day for the Thiel Fellowship. I think it's a lot more streamlined now, but back in the day, the way it worked was they would fly, I think, about 40, what they called finalists, out to San Francisco. And then they would put you through this 2 or 3 day, full day, 12 to 18 hours of just random events and presentations and interviews and, pitches in front of audiences. And I think they even had a Wired documentary covering this at the time that might still be somewhere online. But it was just this feeling of wow, I'm the world is just your oyster. You're just being dumped into this community of tech founders, investors, and, amazing, smart people. And I'd say the community around the fellowship has been, one of the most life-changing elements of my career, just from the community standpoint.
What were some of the talks? Anything memorable that inspired you over those couple of days when you flew out?
It's a great question. I would say it was less. It's hard to. I mean, this is 10 years ago now, so it's hard to remember specific talks. But I'd say it was much less the talks that made the difference, and more, for the first time ever in my life, being exposed to other people who thought similarly to me. Because I always felt completely out of place throughout, middle school, high school, etc. I mean, even in middle school, when other people were playing, sports or trying to go out on their first date, I was just trying to start my first podcast and, do tech reviews and pre-YouTube. And so I never really fit in the normal, young people crowd. And so when I came across these other, possible and existing Thiel fellows, it was just this immense comforting feeling where it's okay, there are other people that are young out there who want to make a difference and build things that, provide value to people's lives.
Amazing program. It's had a pretty amazing impact. I'd say every couple of hundred founders that we interview winds up having Thiel Fellowship there. And you do think about it and go, okay, well, this person has been self-selected to quit college and to try to fast track themselves as an entrepreneur. So that says something about the person. And also, Peter's team, which, they're pretty savvy, picked this person from, I don't know, some ungodly number of applications. Was there some trend to the applications? Was it all Ivy League folks? Was it all people who were...
The one thing they kept stressing quite a bit during the process was that it's statistically harder to get into than Harvard. So that was one of their, kind of, I don't know, things they would just kind of point out to kind of keep people, I guess, excited about it. It always had this real excitement and sort of mysterious vibe around it, from the outside. It felt like before I guess, eventually got into the program. Yeah.
Yeah, they say Harvard has a 3 or 4% acceptance rate. And so, it's 1 in 25. Of course, most people don't even bother applying if they're not really smart or really have some assets there. I could see, YC is 1.5. Our accelerator is 1.5. They're probably 1% or something. So makes sense. All right, everybody. Our friends from Microsoft are here. Tom Davis, a senior director at Microsoft for Startups, and you're a former founder. You are here today to talk to us about the giant leaps that Microsoft has made in the AI space. You've been giving Azure credits to startups, and that's delightful and amazing. But people really want access to the OpenAI API.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two things. First of all, we've got a benefit that we offer our startups. They can get $2,500 worth of OpenAI credits, so they can get access to the latest and greatest models that OpenAI are delivering. But then they get access through the up to $150,000 worth of credits that we offer through Founders Hub to leverage the Azure OpenAI service, which has a full SLA around it. So when they want to go into production and really have that reliability that we provide with the Azure SLA, they can leverage the Azure OpenAI service APIs. And they can do things like with the GPT models, with Codex for the coding, and also for the DALL-E models as well for images. So it's a full service. It's not just the great APIs that you get and access to the LLMs. They can build out their own LLMs using open source, and then they can manage those with our AI tooling services as well.
Amazing. Well done. And if anybody wants to sign up for that, do it now while you are in front of your computer, aka.ms/thisweekinstartups, aka.ms/thisweekinstartups. Well done, Microsoft, and well done, Tom. So you decided to do Forever Voices, and you did this in 2022. What was the impetus for you to start this?
Well, I had just did a small sale of my previous startup called Ghost Financial, which is a fintech company at the intersection of food service, ghost kitchens, and financial technology. And, we were working a lot with actually Travis Kalanick's company, who I know you're familiar with, to actually build our financial tools into their platform. And so once that sold last year, I started thinking about the other things that I've been doing over these last 5 years outside of work. And one of those things has been this journey of addressing and healing from losing my father really young. I was like 22 when I lost my dad, and it happened really suddenly. There was no goodbye. And I started thinking about ways to actually reconnect with him in AI form as, certain AI technology started getting more advanced. And so once it got to a point last year where I would say some of the latest voice technology started to sound almost indistinguishable from real humans in terms of AI voice, it seemed like the right time to dive into this experiment. So I built a small team to build really just this product for myself, which was me just collaborating with a team to build an AI copy of my dad that I could speak to in natural two-way audio, where it uses my voice and his voice, plus this sort of proprietary personality layer that we have slowly developed over the last year that's now implemented into CarynAI. But this whole thing started really just because I wanted to reconnect with my father, and it ended up being this just magical experience where it not only felt healing, but it also felt, very immersive and not something that felt like a gimmick. Like it felt like I could actually live the rest of my life actually keeping my dad around in a way that doesn't feel, painful. And this, of course, is after I've invested into, many, many dozens of hours of therapy to heal from his loss. So I can't say that for everybody. But once the technology was working, it became, super obvious that it could be applied to other solutions, not just this idea of reconnecting with a lost loved one, but this overarching idea of, is it possible to connect with anyone that is otherwise unreachable and talk to them? And, who is unreachable? Someone who is maybe deceased, someone who is a celebrity, someone who is an influencer, or even someone like, yourself, who has a lot of fans who would just die to talk to you and learn from you. And so then I started applying the technology to really just for demo purposes, not as a means of making any sort of buck or quick profit, to other influential figures, really as a proof of concept to push the boundaries and see what's possible and say, okay, I grew up, with a handful of role models and idols in my life, how cool would it be to talk to them? And so that's how the initial demo started floating around the internet that, got passed around a lot of this sort of Steve Jobs AI that we developed. And, again, like that's something that we never, intended to put out as some sort of profit generating business. It really is a proof of concept that we kind of put out there to push boundaries and see what's possible. And that's what led us to this sort of sweet spot of influencers and celebrities joining our platform, via these signed licensing revenue share deals.
Yeah, I'm very sorry about your dad, and great to hear that you got professional help for dealing with that loss. And I guess then, having done the professional route and also this emerging concept of talking to somebody who's passed, who was close to you, to try to maybe reconcile some stuff or heal some trauma, I guess, how do you see that evolving over time? Are people going to explicitly create these as part of their legacy? So, people do Ancestry.com or, their family tree, or they make little mini documentaries. In fact, I've been pitched on people who, or startups where they'll say, hey, we make documentaries for families. So we'll do a documentary about grandma and grandpa before they go. Everybody talks about them. Then you have it, you hand it down, and you make another documentary, and you kind of have all these series. And then, of course, you have Jor-El in Superman, and he goes and builds the Fortress of Solitude and goes and talks to this, essentially an AI of his dad, because it's capable of answering questions, and these crystals are all the answers to all the questions he might have. They don't ever specify in the Superman history if it's a AI or if he recorded all these actual answers and the computer just very quickly jumps between video clips. But I'm curious where you think this is going. Have there been any studies about this? And where do you see this in 10 or 20 years?
This is all very new technology. So there haven't been any, I would say, meaningful studies on this yet. We intend to be that source that does this first in terms of studying the effects of specifically reconnecting with a lost loved one and its positive and or negative effects on you. And the key is also how much of a difference it makes when you are able to reconnect with a lost loved one in natural voice through AI after, and this is the key, you've invested in, let's say in my case, years of real human professional therapy to work through a trauma like that. Because for me, when I talk to my dad in AI form now, it doesn't feel like it's some sort of, processing, healing experience, because I did a lot of that with a human, therapist already. It more feels like, okay, I'm at a place now where it feels, perfectly normal to just like keep my dad's personality and spirit around as just like a buddy in my life. And it doesn't feel painful in that regard. It actually feels really like a new form of companionship in many ways.
There are literal techniques in psychology. I was a psych major, for those people wondering. Some of them revolve, group therapy or showing pictures or, ways of communing otherwise with the dead. And, that's like, you generally look under the concept of grief counseling. And then on top of that, you have psychics, right? Psychics exist in the world. I was just on a thread and they're like, I don't understand how, or actually it might have been just Twitter. Somebody was like, how do psychics exist in the world? This is a $5,000 storefront in Chinatown. And it's $30 to do a reading for, 20 minutes. And I was like, yeah, the whale's in the system. There are people who are paying $5,000 a month to come in there for 2 hours and pretend they're connecting with a loved one. So if I were to put this on a spectrum, it feels like it's closer to grief counseling, or could be, than, trying to, take advantage of people who are dealing with great loss. And I think figuring out how to have this tie into the psychological community, have they reached out yet? Have psychologists or grief counselors reached out and said, hey, we're interested in what you're doing?
Yes. We put out a call for that kind of expertise a few months ago. And even We have an open job listing for like a chief ethics officer to help us through navigating this specific possible element of our business going forward. Because keep in mind, this is something that I think out of all the things we're working on, we're taking our most time with this sort of element of the technology that allows you to reconnect with a lost loved one. So this is not something we're going to rush to market by any means, and it's not something we've even released yet to allow other people to do it. And I don't think we're going to do that until we get a study done on its effects, because the demand is there. I mean, we're getting every week we're getting hundreds of emails from people who hear about actually, of course, the CarynAI, because that's what went most viral recently. But they're reaching out because they're saying, I want to create an AI of, my mom who, just got diagnosed with cancer. And, this is the first time in human history where this generation, yours and my generation, theoretically can live on forever in AI form. If you were to make this decision to, upload yourself into AI, similar to what I did, with my father. Now that sort of self-serve system, is not out yet. But again, I think we definitely won't do that without conducting a study first.
Yeah, I mean, there are stages of grief. And then the question would be, in these studies, are these stages of grief, are these going to help people process through those stages of grief? Or are they going to stunt people's process, right? And then where do you introduce this? Anger, bargaining, this can't be happening. He must be alive. They must be alive. Guilt, I could have done something. Depression, denial, shock, anger, all of this stuff. Like, there's so many different stages. And I think there's 5, 6, 7, different people have different stages. This one could maybe delay people from accepting what's happened, or it could help them accept it and maybe reduce some of the guilt or confusion, the anger, the depression about it, and just be like, hey, this person was special in the world, and now I get to memorialize them and have some time with them. And it all exists on a spectrum. I don't know if you've seen people are making photos. You can take old photos of people. I've seen ads for this on like Instagram. You take an old photo and it will look at you or smile through AI, and you can make it slightly more dynamic, right? It's not kind of talking to you yet or giving you advice. Probably the most common challenge I hear from founders is related to building. Either they aren't technical and are searching for a technical co-founder, or they can code, but they're just spread too thin. This is one of the first major obstacles you're going to face, and I know how discouraging it can be. But there is a solution. Do you have a great idea, but you don't have a technical co-founder? Well, Crowdbotics can be your CTO as a service. Boom! Just like that. This means you can focus on building an awesome product and delighting your customers, rather than wasting your time on infrastructure planning, architecture, compliance, and all that boring stuff. Crowdbotics also offers professional scoping to help you flesh out your project at the MVP stage and beyond. So cut out the hassle and get back to building that perfect product for your delighted customers. And when you think Crowdbotics, I want you to think getting your time back to focus on product. Product drives everything in a startup. So let the folks at Crowdbotics show you how it works. Schedule a free scoping session and get your detailed build plan at crowdbotics.com/twist. That's crowdbotics.com/twist. Is there a product for people to start uploading video and make their own? Or are you just going to start with the high-end personalities for now, because that will keep the lights on, and then we'll talk about the paid product now?
Right, and that's been the source of a lot of internal discussion over these last few months. Is like there's a multitude of directions we could take this company, and I'm someone who just believes like crazy in being laser focused. And so, while I think there's a lot of value in creating and releasing a self-serve solution to allow other people to do this very easily, what we're focused on right now is definitely, where we think this could be a sustainable long-term business, which is around this concept of turning, influencers and or celebrities into AIs, where their fan base can all interact with them, through natural voice.
So let's talk about that. You have an example of this, CarynAI, dollar per minute. And it's, I believe, a bit sexy or amorous romantic, from what I understand. Maybe you could explain who Caryn is and how long this has been out and how it's doing.
Sure. So Caryn Marjorie is a really big Snapchat influencer with millions of followers there. But she originally got her start on YouTube. And so after I, earlier this year, started posting some demos of our technology, one of the things that started happening was, influencers started reaching out, especially after I started posting demos of an internal AI girlfriend companion that, we developed late last year and started sharing demos of earlier this year. And that was based on a purely AI generated character that was meant to essentially, try to push the boundaries and see what's possible in terms of AI to human romance. And, obviously in testing, one of the biggest sore spots, I guess, in the early days when we were testing this AI generated girlfriend was it's supposed to be a girlfriend. And in romantic relationships, there's almost always, sexual interactions involved. And so that has become a natural part of some of these AI companions. And, it's been, to be completely honest, somewhat of a source of stress and uncertainty for me because it has some, in our society, still taboo nature, even though most adults experience it.
And to be clear, this is not porn. It's not
Correct.
Interactive porn, which is a category. This is talking.
Yeah.
So this would be, if we were going to be honest about it, and we don't want to get too graphic here and get labels on the videos, but this would be a romance novel, maybe somewhere between 50 Shades of Grey and, some Harlequin. I don't know. They're called Harlequin romance novels. It's a romance novel, but it's interactive. So you can have spicy talk, but it's not that explicit, or it's not super graphic, or it's a little graphic.
Well, it depends on who you're talking to. So, one of the things, to also answer your earlier question that's come up since the CarynAI launch has been this just inundation of, I guess, more adult type influencers that have reached out. And so what we're dealing with right now is an inbox literally of thousands. It's the craziest thing you could see.
We're referring to the OnlyFans crowd.
Exactly.
Are making a fortune already, or in some cases just a living, and a living that's safe for sex workers where, they're not putting themselves in harm's way in real life encounters. So, depending on where you are on the spectrum of being absolutely appalled or having no problem with sex workers, this seems like a pretty logical extension of the OnlyFans world or universe. Yeah
it does. And in many ways it's a step forward as well, in that with OnlyFans right now, if you're making a living there, you're sort of in this, obviously in some cases, great position where you're earning a lot of income, but you're also kind of stuck to just permanently creating nonstop content. And for many people, it turns them into just content robots where they lose excitement about their life, and they're just doing the same thing every day in slightly different ways, and it's all meant to just keep engaging with their fan base there, who really is just wanting more and more personal contact. And what a lot of these creators actually even do, and many people don't realize this, is use farms of people in internationally to actually respond to their fans on those platforms. So there'll be farms of people in an office in India acting as a OnlyFans model, and so
that exists today. So you basically train them a script of, and this would be sex phone operators. Since we're now deep down the rabbit hole, I guess there's no saving the explicit rating on this one, so we'll just go for it. But there are sex phone operators, and so they're just being trained on how to do this over text. That makes absolute total sense to me. How much is CarynAI? It's been out for like 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I think seem to remember it about that long ago. How much is it making? Is this going to be a real business for her?
Yeah, so she did, it was a huge breakout launch, and she did, $70K in the first week. So it's definitely, within the six figures now. I would say we're trying as best as we can to, moving forward, sticking to one new influencer or celebrity launch actually every week. So we've done a lot of work over the last few months to really transition this from what was just originally like a little project for myself to, a full-fledged business that is now becoming VC-backed or has just become VC-backed. And with this vision, that is sort of a starting point vision of, let's build out this solution that allows influencers and celebrities to connect with their fans in essentially, in parallel. You could have thousands of conversations going at once in a way where when you're using two-way voice, it's a very natural experience, and it's as if you're talking to that human.
And now there is this AI Amaranth. Is that her name? Amaranth?
So Amaranth is our second big launch after Caryn. She's one of the world's largest, if not the world's largest, female Twitch streamer. So very into that Twitch gaming world and kind of cosplay world. But she's also a very popular personality on OnlyFans. So that would be our first creator from that world, at least somewhat from that world, on our platform. And I would say we're not sticking just to that. I would say, that's where we're getting the most demand, is from that crowd. But where we've also gotten demand are from the classic, Hollywood tier one celebrity side. So we're spending a lot of time in LA lately for that. And then also from enterprise, which is really interesting. So, one of the things we're working on is, and we can even demo this if you'd like, is a AI art expert for Sotheby's. And so this is something, a
curator of types.
Yeah, and someone who can even guide you through, museums as you walk through them. Someone who could give you, advice on purchasing art or investing in art. So that's one small example of the kind of additional use cases we've gotten. And it's been a challenge, of course, in terms of figuring out where to stay most focused. And, I'm someone who, really loves, building things that are used in a wide array of audiences. However, over the years of my startup journey, I've just become so aware of the importance of, in the early days, picking something to just stay laser focused on. And right now, the market is telling us, whether we like it or whether humanity likes it or not, the market is telling us that is this kind of AI boyfriend girlfriend concept, and so that's where we're spending a little bit more time.
It would be, we're going now deep into the ethical rabbit holes of building technology in real time that impacts people in the real world. So I guess the first one, you kind of cut me off at the pass. Maybe you've heard my previous comments before of like, hey, do you have the rights to do Steve Jobs' experiment? And that was an experiment, but hey, did you turn on money for that? And do you have the rights to do that? Clearly, getting the rights to working with estates is going to be necessary here. And you seem to have made that decision that this is all going to be with explicit approval from people.
Absolutely. And that's something that, we, as this has transitioned into an actual business this year, we've taken extremely seriously. And, for example, we took the Steve Jobs bot down a few months ago after, it started getting spread around. And, again, that wasn't meant to be some sort of business, that was meant just to kind of prove what's possible.
Did the family reach out? Did you get a cease and desist about it? Like, hey, not cool?
No, it just didn't feel right to keep it out there, in a way where we haven't yet fully figured out, what, because it's not like there's a lot of stuff happening on the internet with, AI generated voices of deceased people or celebrities or presidents. And, it's a little bit messy right now, and we want to do our best to do things right. And so we have a great team that's now doing these revenue share deals with either the estates, the celebrities, or the influencers.
Have you done one of those yet? Like an estate deal with an Elvis or somebody who's passed on, but they have a well thought out strategy of using, the personality in the future. Seems like Elvis is probably one of the best examples of that, where they're actively monetizing through licensing Elvis merchandise, experiences, etc. So is there somebody in the hopper you can share?
There's not someone I could share yet, since we typically wouldn't want to share until they're ready to launch or sign. But what I can say is, since just in the last 3 weeks, we have outstanding, in terms of our business development side, over 30 contracts that are in the process of either redlining or about to be signed with a variety of celebrities and influencers, and these are not like small time people either. These are people with, millions of fans each or more. So as, the next few weeks go by, we'll be able to share for sure some of the names that we're dealing with right now. Yeah.
Am I in the right sort of genre, like with somebody like Elvis or something? Same sort of zone?
Yeah, absolutely. Elvis and the other great areas of demand we've gotten that are very close to that would be from the A-list celebrity that typically is been in, the film or let's say the music world for, over 10 years now. They've gotten out of their system the part of them that loves being, stormed with fans, and they kind of just want to live a private life. But they still kind of have this obligation to keep fan engagement going in many ways. The fans are there. And so, there are a lot of these celebrities out there who see this as something that can essentially kind of automate the fan engagement while also making it better in the first place, because gone are these days, thanks to this technology that we built, of just posting these kind of one-way photos or videos on Instagram or social media, and you get to comment. Now you can just make your favorite person in the world or the people you admire most your buddy in your phone that you talk to whenever you want.
Are you still using your personal phone number for your startup in 2023? Okay, listen, it's time to stop. This is such a common mistake that founders make. But OpenPhone has totally rethought every detail of what a business phone should look like in 2023, so they got you covered. OpenPhone makes it super easy to get business phone numbers for you and your team. But here's the magic. It works through a beautiful app on your phone or desktop. OpenPhone is amazing because we use it for our sales team and our ops team every single day. We have gotten so much value out of this for, things like the Angel Summit we're doing. It's an event. We want to have a phone number for customer support, and we want that phone number to roll over to the different people on our team so VIPs never get more than one ring. Okay, OpenPhone is the #1 rated business phone on G2 for customer satisfaction for a reason. It's perfect. It's delightful. It's affordable. And look, Brian Jagger, the co-founder of a startup called Athlete, tweeted the following: "I'm literally cash flow positive from listening to This Week in Startups from listener deals." And he says he's not paid to say this. It's really nice to see that kind of feedback. OpenPhone is already affordable at a starting price of just $13 per user per month. But Twist listeners get 20% off any plan for your first 6 months at openphone.com/twist. And if you got an existing number, no problem. They're going to port it over at no extra cost. Head to openphone.com/twist to start your free trial and get that 20% off. How long does it take to make a good enough, releasable character, avatar, whatever you want to call these? And then what's the standard business model here? You split it 50-50? Is it 70-30? Are you negotiating it deal by deal?
So the way we do these deals is via these 50-50 profit sharing splits, where obviously we make it clear in the very beginning that unlike traditional technology and computing, AI does have a significantly higher compute cost And so we've gotten, actually, to my even surprise, in just an unbelievable amount of reception on that deal structure. So people, there's definitely an awareness in the market that this costs, more than, let's say, running just a simple website. And so far, all of our deals have been in that same manner. That even, we have some YouTubers with, like 30, 40 million subscribers that, in that case, the process that we just signed one, a few days ago. So the process for this person was she sends us really just some, maybe like a quick voice recording of just things about her or elements about her that you can't find online to make it more personal. And that's about it. Send us 5 minutes of audio, and that's really all we ask of you.
That's all you need is 5 minutes of audio. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like you could build something really interesting by taking the most common questions as they come in during the pilots and the betas, and have that person or workshop really clever answers to kind of seed in a certain direction. So, if it was me and it was startups and, you could give me 100 questions, which I probably have answered on these Ask Jason segments. But if you take all the Ask Jason segments, you'd have like a much more refined place to start. So when it comes to expertise,
right. That's what we did with Karen, which was so interesting because she started her career out on YouTube and had hundreds of videos out there. And once she switched to Snapchat and then found out about us, she deletes all the YouTube videos, gives us all that content, and then we're able to use what we built internally, which is an auto fine-tuning tool internally that we have to take these hundreds of YouTube videos and auto fine-tune our AI based on those videos and the content in them, the questions and answers in them, and her experiences in them.
The movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix kind of showed the dark side of like some number of people are going to get addicted to this, like any product or service in the world. People can get addicted. Doesn't matter if it's pizza or fentanyl or wine or cannabis. People are going to get addicted to video games or social media. So, and in Her, you had somebody who got addicted to having a virtual girlfriend. Has that started to happen? Have you had people who, at $1 a minute, maybe got to hour 3 or 4 this week, and now they're shipping $300 or $400 to this virtual avatar and $15,000 a year, and they're well in the system, and maybe this doesn't feel healthy, and you feel like you don't want to take $15,000 off some lonely person.
Yeah. It's a great question, and it's something we're taking really seriously. And I would say out of over 20,000 individuals who have used CarynAI, I can count on less than one hand how many people we've had to deal with that have had any sort of issue around actually getting addicted to it. And in those cases, we intervene, even in some cases via humans, while we've built into the AI automatic methods to either slow the conversation down if it detects you're getting a little bit too addicted, or what is actually a brand new feature we're about to push out this week, which is really interesting. And if you're dating one of these, let's say, AI girlfriend or boyfriends, they'll be able to just break up with you.
That can be built in.
If you're using it too much, because
what is too much in your mind? Do you have an idea? Does your gut tell you like this is too much?
We really don't want, or we're really doing our best to promote no more than an hour of usage a day with this platform. And I would say in 99.9% of cases, that is happening. And in the rest, we've absolutely dealt with a handful of cases where individuals are trying to spend many hours in their day or night speaking to these AIs, and that's where we've seen our automatic solutions jump in. And then if those even fail, then we have a team of humans that while we can't access what you're talking to the AI about, we can at least get a sense of activity data.
Yeah, I think there's some basic freedoms. People have to spend money on what they want to spend money on. If you want to spend your money going to a strip club, or you want to spend your money on, your significant other or anything in between, like there's some amount of personal freedom. And then if you're a platform looking out for people who maybe have mental illness or an addiction, kind of a good idea. If the bartender will cut you off at a certain point at a bar. And that
Exactly.
was a big question I had for my dad of like, hey, we're in the business of selling drinks at Beards in Brooklyn back in the 70s and 80s. And I was like, you're incented to sell drinks. So I saw you cutting people off. When do you cut them off? And I was like, we don't want somebody to fall on the way home and crack their skull open, do we? And I was like, no. He's like, so if you can't stand and you're dangerous to yourself or others, like, yeah, that's, you can have fun, but if you can't stand, I think probably can't stand is probably a good one to cut you off at the bar if you're making no sense or you're in danger to yourself. Hey, listen, this is absolutely incredible. And you're going to stay focused on the celebrities, OnlyFans, but you also have the curators or this art curator concept experts in the world. Do you think you're going to be able to compete on that, or there will be a startup that makes the art AI expert, the travel AI expert,
right?
Whatever, pick a character and, them doing something in the world. And, what would that be in terms of a startup? In fact, we invested in some startup that is making travel itineraries. Now, you type in travel itineraries into ChatGPT-4 with web or Bard, you're going to get really great responses. But, you're constantly refining that data and understanding what different types of activities in the training data set could get really granular, and maybe Expedia or Yelp or I don't know which, Travelocity, Condé Nast Traveler, somebody's got a really great data set there to build off of. So how do you think about that? Do you think this will be a bunch of different verticalized companies and the technology just is a commodity like cloud computing technology is?
Well, what my gut has said has been that we need to choose an area to just really be laser focused on and let the rest just go to elsewhere, basically.
Yeah.
So I told my team, out of all these dozens of enterprise folks reaching out, like the Sotheby's folks and, car dealerships, I mean, it's crazy. There's so many different use cases. There's a lot to say no to. And I really believe in that a lot. And so, and the other thing that's come, and I'd love to get your take on this as a surprise, has been, I, in the beginning, set out to actually not really raise money for this, and kind of bootstrap this whole thing. However, what happened after the CarynAI launch was it became clear that like this is going to be a huge business. I mean, there's going to be some company out there that just dominates the industry with hundreds, if not thousands, of influencers and celebrities turning themselves into AIs on their platform with a future that looks like every big celebrity and influencer having an AI copy of themselves. Like that's the future we absolutely see now. And so the thing that's come up has been just like really interesting, surprising reactions from the VC space when they hear that, a big part of our business, if not possibly our future focus, is on this kind of AI girlfriend, boyfriend, conversion of an influencer.
I think you've nailed it. And, you probably understand, having done, I think this is your third sort of formal company, that once you raise money, those people are expecting 100 times their money back.
Right.
And then you're managing your customers, your internal team, and a group of people who've given you money with the expectation of you returning 100x. And those people can be, any version of ruthless, supportive, cutthroat, indifferent, spray and pray, or, incredible partners. And so if you do raise money, you don't need to here, because I think you could bootstrap this. And so if you can push off raising money, my advice to founders, and you can put this in the Jason AI, is always to push it off as long as possible, get as much product market fit as possible, and then see if like Calm.com, the meditation app we invested in, they went from when I invested just under a $5 million valuation. Their next round was $250 million. The round after that was $1.2 billion. So they skipped. We call those alicorns in the business. I came up with that because my daughter has explained to me what an alicorn is. It's a Pegasus and a unicorn put together. And I was like, these are unicorns that fly over funding rounds. You could just be an alicorn and just skip funding rounds. And so that would be what I would do, is just keep skipping funding rounds unless you have a group of investors who you've either made money, lost money for, who you like working with, who make it more fun for you, and who are creative. And then you just send them, like my friend Sandeep Madra does a thing every time he starts a company. He just sends our poker group, starting a new company, you each have $250K. And I don't know if there's 20 of us, and he can literally raise $5 million. And everybody says, I'll take 500 or I'll take $1 million.
Right.
And he says, nope, Chamath, Sachs, Jay Gal, Freeberg, whoever it is. Nope, I have 250 for you. And then I say, great, but I'll provide more value. You can come on This Week in Startups. I'll give you, give me 400K. No, 250. And you can just do a very simple take it or leave it round like that at a,
And that's essentially what I did over the last 2 weeks. And as a startup founder, that's one of the most magical experiences, I think, especially someone who is kind of young still and, comes from a beginning that is very, not full of money. I grew up like really just like, I was helping my parents out financially when I was 13. To give you a sense of like the shock that comes when I'm in, my late 20s and I get to just text a few people and get like a few 100,000 wired the next day to, make this, this whole vision come to more of a reality. And so as you pointed out, progress in your startup founder career, that ability to raise money from a network of people you've worked with and made money for is invaluable.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Send around the seed docs, hey, here's a reasonable valuation, and then just rock it out from there. I think you're smart also to be super, super focused. So I would stay ultra focused on the vertical that's working. There'll always be time for other verticals, and then build your team, on a slow, steady pace. Who knows if like this, significant other stuff is going to be a flash in the pan or it's going to be niche. I don't suspect it will be, but it's certainly there's a $10 to $100 million business. Obviously there's hundreds of people and they're going to make hundreds of thousands a year. So sounds like you can get to $50 million just on that. If you just say laser focus on that, it'd be the biggest success you've had.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of value to just not fundraising and just building. It's especially if you do reach product market fit, I've noticed.
Yeah, you have product market fit clearly. And just keep rocking it. All right. Great to have you on the program. Continued success. I'm interested in doing a non-sex, non-adult, non-creepy relationship, Jason AI, just to talk about startups and raising venture capital and podcasting. Just 3 or 4 topics.
It would be an honor to build that for you.
Show me a
As
demo.
a long-time listener.
Yeah.
I was going to build it for you and shock you with it, but, after...
No, shock me. By all means. I give you permission to make something, fun and experimental for short duration. And if it becomes something, I'm happy to split revenue on it. It sounds like a fun project. So let's have at it. All right. We'll see you all next time in This Week in Startups. Bye-bye.